Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers, and we are here with a head-to-head between the new Nike Vaporfly 4 and its predecessor, the Nike Vaporfly 3. Now Nike has switched things up with the Vaporfly 4. It now looks to cut its own path. It's offering something different to the Vaporfly 3 and to its stablemate, the Alphafly Next Percent 3. There's a bit of a shift back to a race shoe that's lower stack, or at least lower stack versus the current 40mm trend in race shoes, and a bit more direct. It's perhaps a step back closer to the minimal origins of the OG Vaporfly. So will fans of the Vaporfly 3 who like that extra cushion like what's new with the Vaporfly 4? Let's get into it in our Nike Vaporfly 4 versus Nike Vaporfly 3 head-to-head review. Quick details first then, and the Vaporfly 4 cuts 5mm from the heel and 3mm from the forefoot, so you've now got a 35mm in the heel, 29mm in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. That's versus the Vaporfly 3 with 40mm in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. The Vaporfly 4 is the lightest ever Vaporfly. It now weighs in at 5.2 ounces or 148 grams in my UK 8.5, US men's 9.5. That's more than an ounce lighter than the Vaporfly 3, which comes in at 6.9 ounces or 195 grams in the same size. On price, you're going to pay a little bit extra for the Vaporfly 4. It's now $260 in the US or £240 in the UK versus $250 or £235 that you're going to pay for the Vaporfly 3. Quick shoe comparison then, and the Nike Vaporfly 4 sticks to the same familiar super shoe combination as the Vaporfly 3. You've got a ZoomX midsole, a carbon fly plate and a light breathable racy upper set. It's all still compact, lightweight and relatively minimal. The biggest change though comes in that midsole. Now while most super shoes and race shoes now max out the race legal stack at 40mm, at that kind of limit, Nike has made the call to reduce the weight and the wedge of ZoomX foam underfoot. So that helps bring down the overall weight of the shoe, but creates a slightly different ride from the softer, spongier Vaporfly 3. The fly plate carbon plate has also now been tweaked to have a more aggressive curve to enhance that lever effect. The Vaporfly 4 is also now wider in this midfoot section. So if you found the narrowness in the Vaporfly 3 impacted your comfort or caused a bit of irritation, this extra width may well alleviate that. When it comes to the uppers, Nike has swapped what is a highly perforated sort of fly knit in the Vaporfly 3 for a brand new light engineered mesh upper that adds more wrap and support. It's a bit more filled in, but a little bit less airy than the uppers in the Vaporfly 3. The heel collar package stays largely the same. You've still got the kind of regular small internal pads. There is an added heel tab here though on the Vaporfly 4 that helps you get the shoe on and keep them in place. The lacing is also no longer as offset on the Vaporfly 4, but the flat wrapping tongues remain very similar with a little padding to help avoid lace pinch. When you flip them over, both shoes have a good covering of outsole rubber in the forefoot and two pads in their heels on the impact zones. Nike's made some more weight savings with a thinner outsole here. You're also going to get this big central channel in the midsole that cuts some weight but can catch a few more stones than you had with the Vaporfly 3. In terms of the size of those heel impact pads as well, they're bigger on the Vaporfly 3 than they are on the 4. So in testing, I ran in a US 9.5, a UK 8.5 in the Vaporfly 3 and in the new Vaporfly 4, which is my regular size in Nike shoes. For the Vaporfly 4, I felt the fit was good overall with a good balance of hold and flex. The uppers wrap nicely but move and kind of flex with your foot, so though the fit is more race hugging than you want to get with the Vaporfly 3, they do avoid feeling cramped like some carbon race shoes can. At times where I didn't pay enough attention to lacing them though, I did have a little bit of heel slipping. That was fixed when I just lashed them down a bit tighter, but you may want to pay attention to that. There's a slightly more accommodating midfoot on the Vaporfly 4. That's been widened from the Vaporfly 3, but the Vaporfly 4 feels more compact and snug for me. I've got quite big wide feet and they do hug a bit more than the 3. For the Vaporfly 3, the fit I think is also secure. Got nice security in the heel and across the midfoot with good hold. I had no pinching. I had no worrying movement on the big ZoomX platform. However, I did find that they came up sort of maybe ever so slightly long in the toe box. If you like a good old inch between your little piggies and the end of the toe box though, that's absolutely fine. And that does have the benefit, that extra room of sort of giving you no worries about that kind of black toenails issues because you're not going to butt up against the end. So that can be a smart thing to do anyway, but it's worth noting. But having said all that, in both shoes, I would recommend going true to size.
Okay, can't find the Vaporfly 3. Don't know what I've done with it. Haven't used it since I moved house. I've got the Vaporfly 4 here though. So the fit for me in those two shoes. So Vaporfly 4 actually found to be quite a roomy shoe. There's plenty of space in the forefoot. I'm a size 8 in the UK. This is a size 8. Find it a very comfortable ratio actually. It is a ratio, so you're going to be expected to be a little bit more lean on the fit of the foot, but for a ratio, it's pretty good. I found it to be quite easy to get a nice lockdown fit in it, but it's a fairly there's space in this shoe to make it comfortable. I've got fairly average width feet. I'm probably about the limit of width for this shoe. But yeah, I found it to be a really comfortable shoe. Definitely stick to my UK size 8 in it. I also like some nice little bits of padding and stuff around it as well. So I found it to be a very good shoe for lots of cases. The Vaporfly 3, very similar. I find that to be really comfortable as well. Plenty of space in the forefoot for me on that, and I had a size 8 in that as well, which I can't find. But I would stick to my UK size 8 definitely in the Vaporfly 3.
In testing, I've covered close to 200 miles in the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. That includes multiple marathon race tests, some that went well, some that didn't go quite so well. I've covered much less in the Vaporfly 4. It's closer to 30 miles now, but I did an all-out 10-miler where I set a new PB for that distance. I've generally pushed the pace in both of these shoes. I've also run ragged miles on tired legs, testing them across a range of paces, and I've done most of that obviously on the road, which is what they're made for. Now, it's been a while since I logged miles in the Vaporfly 3, so I also pulled these shoes on, got them out of semi-retirement, in fact, to test them again for this review, including a side-by-side mile with one Vaporfly on each foot. Now, the biggest change here, I think, is the flip from the much squishier, softer and more accommodating midsole setup that you got on the Vaporfly 3 back towards something in the 4 that's lower stack, compresses a bit less, much less compression in the heel, and is a bit snappier overall, is a bit more connected and faster to return than the Vaporfly 3. Vaporfly 3 I felt had gone a little bit mushy. The Vaporfly 4 now returns some of the immediacy. That might mean for some runners this lighter, lower stack, slightly more minimal shoe is now more suited to the upper limit of a guns blazing sort of half marathon, better than the Falls 26.2. But for others who really like the snappiness of the earliest gen Vaporflies, this Vaporfly 4 may well feel like a bit of a positive return close to that shoe, though it's not going all the way back to that direct ride of the first gen races. There is still softness here, I find. Now, the Vaporfly 3 may have brought some forgiving softness that made it kinder to ragged form and tired legs, but I found it all a bit too mushy, as I've said. I think it lost some of its all-out edge, and I preferred other stiffer race shoes that came along, like the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris, for pushing my fastest times. Now, the Vaporfly 4's lower stack and the tweak plate offer a better balance. The shoe feels light, feels fast. You've got a good connection with the ground, with the road underfoot. That's sort of still keeping you feeling those kind of foot turnovers, but without being too harsh, I find still. But it's not quite up there, I still don't think, with something like an Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris on that overall kind of stiffness and snappiness. On durability, I wouldn't say there's much to choose between the endurance of the outsole setup. I found the large perforations, though, in the upper on the Vaporfly 3 had a tendency to sort of stretch a bit. They never broke, but the more closed structure, I think, here on the Vaporfly 4's mesh does look to me like it will be longer lasting.
Right, so I wasn't a massive fan of the Vaporfly 3. I think it was absolutely fine. I think it did the job that you'd expect from the Vaporfly 3, but I loved the Vaporfly 2. I loved that responsiveness. I loved the feel, the kick of the carbon plate that you get in the Vaporfly 2. And I thought the Vaporfly 3 lost it a bit. It felt a little bit softer. It felt a little bit dampened from the midsole foam. And I didn't get the same level of oomph that I got from the Vaporfly 2. And as a result, I didn't really use it that much over the course of after I'd tested it. When I was testing, one of the main things that happened to it is that I completely ripped off the outsole rubber on the back section of the Vaporfly 3 within 5k, which I think a few people had issues with. It was a really, really thin layer of rubber which I just destroyed straight away, so I wasn't very impressed by that from the off. But as far as shoes go, I think it was absolutely fine. I think it did exactly what you expected from the Vaporfly, and I know a lot of people liked it. I just found that it just didn't have the carbon plate magic that the Vaporfly 2 had. Felt very fast, felt lightweight, but I just didn't get as much from it that I got from the Vaporfly 2. Vaporfly 4, I like more than Vaporfly 3, and the main reason for that is that they dropped the stack on this, and I think that makes it a slightly different shoe. So the Vaporfly 3 is obviously going to be compared to the Vaporfly 2, and shoes like the Alphafly 2 and 3. But the Vaporfly 4, because of this drop in stack, I think it's basically focusing this shoe for a different reason. I think it's more designed for shorter distances for most people now. I think for elites and athletes, I think you'd be absolutely fine for using this for a marathon. I wouldn't use this for a marathon. Hasn't got enough stack height in it for me. Not enough foam in there for me. I've used this for some shorter sessions, intervals, things like that. And it definitely feels very light, very nippy on the feet, and really, really good for that shorter distance stuff. I think it's more akin to something like the Adidas Takumi Sen range now than it would be to something like the Alphafly range or the other carbon plate shoes out there. So I definitely think it's a 5 and 10k shoe for most people. I probably wouldn't even use it for half marathon. I think it'd be fine for me to use, but I do like a bit more cushioning and a bit more bounce, and there's not loads in this because of that stack. But I just think it's a really, really fast shoe now. I don't think the carbon plate necessarily does loads, and definitely you can feel that the less midsole foam in there, but it feels so light on the feet that you can pick up the pace so quickly and just feels so nippy and close to the ground in the forefoot as well. So I really like the Vaporfly for those reasons, but I don't think it's going up against a lot of carbon plate shoes at the moment because it's just low stack, and a lot of carbon plate shoes are getting more stack these days. So comparing those two shoes, I do think it's a bit difficult to compare the two based on what they're used for. I know the Vaporfly 3 was more of an all-rounder shoe like the Vaporfly 2, where people would use it for marathons. I didn't really like using the Vaporfly 3 for longer distance stuff anyway. I preferred using the Alphafly 2. I preferred using the Alphafly 1 and to an extent the Alphafly 3. I'm not as big a fan of the Alphafly 3. But I think really when it comes down to shoes, the Vaporfly 3 for me is a shoe that doesn't really do a great job of what it was trying to do. I think if this shoe is really, the Vaporfly 4 is trying to get on those shorter distances, I think it does a great job at that. The outsole on the, I've done about 50k in the Vaporfly 4 now, and I've not destroyed the rubber on the outsole. So they've definitely upped the quality of that rubber on the back section of the shoe.
Verdict then, and I would say the updates to the Vaporfly Next Percent 4, they may well divide opinion, but then I think on some levels so did the extra softness that came with the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. Some people loved it, some people not so much. Other people maybe thought it moved the Vaporfly too close to the Alphafly in terms of what it did. At least now with the Vaporfly 4, there is some clear daylight between those two shoes for sure. Now, which of these shoes works best for you? I think it's going to come down to whether or not you prefer a softer, squishier edge, or you want a foam that compresses less and returns faster with a bit of a firmer bite. If it's the former, the Vaporfly 3 is definitely your shoe. If it's the latter, the Vaporfly 4 is the way to go. If I had to choose one shoe to race up to the half marathon, I'd absolutely go for the Next Percent 4, this Vaporfly 4. I'd even likely choose it for the marathon, but then I don't mind a shoe that has a bit more of a direct ride. Don't need that extra softness. I found it was actually too squishy in the Vaporfly 3. There will undoubtedly be some runners though who want that extra softness for the longer races, and the Vaporfly 3 will be more accommodating if you need that. Though if you're looking for a combination of more cushion and energy, I would argue that the Alphafly Next Percent 3 is definitely a better longer haul shoe or marathon option even still than the Vaporfly 3. If you like softness and you can find the Vaporfly 3 on a deal, I'd say snap it up. If you want a shoe that's got more pop, the Vaporfly Next Percent 4 I think is the way to go. I think it is an improvement.
Okay, so my verdict on the Vaporfly 3 and the Vaporfly 4, I think, as I said, they're used for slightly different purposes now. I think the Vaporfly 3 really is a carbon plate shoe which has a lot of stiff competition and really doesn't stand out across most of it. I think it's still a solid shoe. I think it's got a lot of the benefits you get from the Vaporfly 2. I just think it feels a bit softer and a bit more dead in the midsole to me. It just seems to compress a bit more and you don't get as much back as I got from the Vaporfly 2. Vaporfly 4 feels lighter on the feet, feels more like a short distance shoe, feels nippier to me than the Vaporfly 3. And I think this is a much better shoe for using for 5Ks and 10Ks than the Vaporfly 3. As I said, I wasn't a massive fan of Vaporfly 3 anyway, but I think you probably would buy these for different reasons anyway. I think for most people, the Vaporfly 4 is now a shorter distance shoe, whereas Vaporfly 3 was penned as a sort of all-rounder shoe, which a lot of people bought. But for me, I'm going to go for the Vaporfly 4 all the way, because I think if it is designed for the purposes that I think it's designed for, which is those short distances, it's a far superior shoe and really does what it says on the tin against a lot of other carbon plate shoes at the moment.
So there you have it. That's been our head-to-head between the Nike Vaporfly 4, the old Vaporfly 3. Hope you found it useful. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Ring the bell if you did. Every time you subscribe, it really helps us out. Helps us keep making videos on the channel. That support is really, really welcome. If you're interested in carbon racers, I'm going to pop a video on the channel now. You should go and watch. Otherwise, as ever, I always say it, but thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with us. And in the meantime, until we see you again, happy running, people.